They thought they could shut him out. They thought a locked fence would strip him of his heritage. But what they didn't know was that the man they tried to corner had a plan bigger than their fence, their rules, and their arrogance. This is the story of Marcus Johnson, a black rancher who faced an HOA that tried to erase his legacy with a padlock, and how he turned their scheme into his greatest victory. By the end, the only person holding the key wasn't the HOA president, but the man they tried to destroy. Marcus Johnson wasn't just a rancher. He was the grandson of pioneers. His grandfather had bought the land in the 1940s, at a time when few black families were even allowed to own property in the county. The ranch wasn't just soil and grass, it was history. Every fence post, every barn beam, every grazing cow carried the weight of sacrifice and pride. Marcus often stood at the edge of the fields at sunrise, watching the horizon glow with golden light, reminding himself, "This is ours. My grandfather's sweat runs through this land." But as new neighborhoods popped up nearby, full of white picket fences and manicured lawns, not everyone saw Marcus's land as heritage. To them, it was an eyesore, a reminder of a life they didn't understand and didn't want to. The HOA meetings started quietly. At first, Marcus wasn't even aware of them. Linda, the HOA president, stood before her board with her rehearsed smile. "Property values are dropping," she said, "because of that ranch. The animals, the noise, the smell. It doesn't belong here." Someone from the back muttered, "Can't we make him move?" Linda smirked. "If we can't make him move, we'll make it hard enough that he'll want to leave." Soon, Marcus began receiving letters. Noise complaint, roosters, violation, unsightly barn visible from the road, concern, livestock attracting pests. Marcus crumpled each one. "I'm not even under their HOA," he muttered. But with each passing week, the letters grew nastier. Then came the morning when Marcus found himself staring at a steel fence cutting across his road. His stomach sank. His land, his animals, his home blocked. Marcus drove up to the new gate, jaw clenched. A shiny lock dangled on the chain, mocking him. He dialed Linda's number. She answered sweetly, "Yes, Marcus? Did your HOA put a fence across my road?" he demanded. Linda's tone turned sharp. "We're protecting the community. If you want access, you'll have to come to us." Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. "That's my land. My family's land. You can't lock me out." "Then sue us," Linda snapped before hanging up. Marcus leaned against his truck, his chest burning with rage. His cattle needed feeding. His land needed him. But the HOA thought they had him trapped behind their gate. What they didn't know was that Marcus wasn't a man who gave up. For weeks, Marcus fought. He called the county, filed complaints, and even met with lawyers. The county inspector shook his head. "It's a gray area, Marcus. The HOA claims road access. You'll need proof to fight them." Proof. That's what Marcus needed. So, night after night, Marcus pored over old maps and property deeds. His grandfather's handwriting appeared on the edges of one survey map, marking boundaries that predated the HOA by decades. And then Marcus saw something. The strip of land where the fence sat, it wasn't owned by the HOA at all. It belonged to a private investor, a man who had moved states away and left the property untouched for years. Marcus's lips curled into a slow smile. The HOA thought they owned his road, but they didn't. Marcus tracked down the investor. It took weeks of phone calls, voicemails, and finally, a long conversation that ended with a price. It wasn't cheap. Marcus had to empty his savings, take out a loan, and risk everything. But when he signed the papers, he knew it was worth it, because the deed he now held in his hand didn't just represent a strip of dirt road. It represented freedom. The next day, Marcus drove to the gate. HOA members were gathered there, proud of their shiny new fence. Linda folded her arms. "You'll need approval to pass through." Marcus stepped out of his truck. Slowly, deliberately, he pulled out a key. Click. The gate swung open. Linda's jaw dropped. "What are you doing?" Marcus turned to her, his voice calm but cutting. "I own this land now, which means this gate belongs to me." Word spread like wildfire. The HOA had spent thousands building a fence on land they didn't own. And now, the very man they tried to crush held the only key. Some neighbors laughed behind closed doors. Others whispered, "Serves them right." Even a few who once complained about the ranch walked up to Marcus and said, "I'm sorry. We should have stood with you." Linda, humiliated, tried to fight back. She called emergency meetings, drafted angry letters, even threatened another lawsuit. But her own board grew tired of her obsession. One by one, they turned on her. Eventually, Linda resigned in disgrace, leaving the neighborhood fractured and bitter. And Marcus? He never gloated. Instead, he drove through his gate every morning, tipping his hat as he passed. The key didn't just open a road, it opened respect. Years later, Marcus's children and grandchildren would gather at the ranch, laughing and running through the fields. The gate still stood there, tall and strong, not as a barrier, but as a symbol. A reminder that when others try to fence you out, you don't break down. You find a way through. Sometimes that way through is quiet determination. Sometimes it's patience. And sometimes it's owning the very thing they tried to use against you. For Marcus Johnson, the key wasn't just metal. It was justice. And when people ask him about the HOA fence, Marcus simply smiles and says, "They tried to lock me out, but in the end, I was the only one holding the key."